Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The Real Brad Lea is dropping
What it is, Brad Lea back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. And you know when I say and emphasize the word real, it means real. Brendan Kane, if you've never heard of him, you will. But he wrote a book called 1 Million Followers, and he wrote a book called Hook Point, best-selling author, strategist in a lot of different ways to a lot of what I would say are influencers / celebrities / major brands, yeah?
Yep.
And I want to get a little bit more into your old movie career. So you've had a lot of experience, but essentially for the people listening, dude, you're like a growth expert using marketing and branding and positioning and messaging and kind of just all that.
I just like to figure out how to grow things. I like to figure out complex strategies, distill them down into their simplest form so that I can scale them for myself and my clients.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling you're going to get a whole bunch of clients when I drop this episode, including maybe the Real Brad Lea, which technically is a brand, and then Lightspeed, which is, it's already a freaking 8-figure company. This should be a 10-figure company.
We can definitely get it there. I
need your shit. Yeah. Well, again, that's why I'm glad you freaking took the time to do this episode, because I can pick your brain and everyone listening can listen to what you're saying and get help. It's awesome. Like this, every business needs this episode. So folks, if you're listening, you got a real treat. But I see you're wearing that goat head looking logo. I think that's called, what's that brand? Rag and Bone or no?
All Saints.
Yeah, All Saints. I've got my own clothing brand coming out. It's got a goat head. It's fatter than that one. It's better than that one. But it's a goat head, and it's just called Goat Work. And why? Well, because, dude, if you want to be the goat, you got to do the work.
Let's start marketing it.
Right. So I'm trying to find a damn reliable source, dude. I'm still in the whole manufacturing phase. I'm trying to get a good, I want high quality Pima cotton, like my favorite shirt's a Lacoste. Like I love a V-neck Lacoste. That's all I wear mainly. So I'm trying to source that kind of fabric and quality with the actual head itself on there attached firmly, like Lacoste. I'm getting them back where I wash it and then the goat head falls off. So it's all premature is what I'm saying. But yeah, dude, I got a million reasons to use your knowledge. I want to start picking your brain about a few things. Quick question though. Hook Point's the latest book.
Yeah.
1 Million Followers, How I Build a Massive Social Following in 30 Days was an older book.
Yeah.
And folks, you guys can get these books, I'm sure, anywhere books are sold. And plus you can look him up at Brendan, not Brandon, Brendan Kane, Kane. You'll be able to find him. So this one was first. Now, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm paraphrasing. This book, basically, you went on a challenge to see if you could get 1 million followers in 30 days?
Yeah.
And
it wasn't really, could I do it? I knew I could do it because I had spent 3.5 years developing the systems, working with big celebrities, journalists, corporations, generating these testing methodologies. So it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of why. And that goes into the second book of, I'm a huge believer that in this noisy world that we live in, you need to win the first 3 to 5 seconds.
Hook
Otherwise,
point.
Yeah, it's a tool that we've developed in order to do that.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily news.
No, it's not news. It's just for this new digital world that we're living in, this noisy world.
Yeah, but you're saying get their attention the first 35 seconds. Well, no shit. I've heard that 1 million times. How is the question?
Well, that's what we've designed a system to do that. And we've used it across our team. We've probably amassed over 50 million followers, maybe close to 100 million. I lose track. And also over 40 billion views.
Leveraging Hook Point, or do you have some software? Do you have a?
No, it's all starting with
just
the hook.
know-how.
Because it makes sense. Like you've heard it.
Yeah.
Is if you can't win the first 3 to 5 seconds, you'll never get to your brand message. You'll never get to your purpose, your why, your product or service. Why? Because people keep scrolling. And as we were talking before, if people keep scrolling, the algorithms see that, they suppress your content, you get no reach.
Noise, too.
Same thing in the paid auctions.
Yeah.
If you're using paid. If people are scrolling past your ads and skipping over it, engaging with it, they'll let you still advertise it, but you're going to pay a premium in the auction for that, and thus it's going to throw off all of your KPIs and make it very difficult to generate a profit.
A ROAS.
Yeah.
You like that word?
Yeah. I love that word.
Folks, if people don't understand what ROAS is, it's basically return on ad spend. Because I'm just getting into this whole, I'm starting to look closer at the marketing game because people keep asking me, hey, I'm 20 years old. What should I do? I say, bro, if you ask me, I'd learn marketing. They're like, marketing? I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know a good marketer that's broke.
Absolutely.
Or working very hard.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's almost like if you know what you're doing, bro, sky's the limit. If you know marketing, why? Everybody needs customers. Everybody wants customers. And nowadays with social media, you could literally create a money machine. And a lot of people have and do. You're included, right?
Yeah. And I will not work with a client until we establish a hook point. Either they may have one or we have to develop one for them. Because if we can't win that first 3 to 5 seconds, I can't help you scale.
Yeah, so the hook point is literally like important, not only because you got to get their attention. That's to me, well, yeah, I've heard that before. And maybe it was originated from you, but I knew that. The question is, well, then why haven't you done it? Well, how do I make a hook point?
So first off, I want to kind of define what a hook point is
Okay.
in kind of our world. So a hook point means grabbing attention. So it's winning that first 3 to 5 seconds. But it doesn't stop there because I'm not talking about clickbait. So there's 3 pillars to a successful hook point. Number 1 is grabbing that attention, winning that first 3 to 5 seconds. Number 2 is, okay, you have my attention. What is the story you're going to tell me to maintain that attention? Mm-hmm. Especially when we're talking about social media, the retention metrics, the watch time, all of that are critically important to determine if you're going to reach your followers or reach beyond your followers. So you have to have an effective story to capture the attention once you win it.
And keep in mind, folks, this is the data you've been looking through and sifting through for how long?
15 years.
And you got it at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So if there's someone listening that's like, I'm going to learn this. Dude, if you got money, hire him to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we break down how to do it in our Hook Point book and our masterclass. But like I said, like it takes time to get good at this. It's not like just because we give you the framework.
But can people just pay you to do it for them?
Yeah, we have a whole agency that does it.
Yeah, that's what I'd be more interested in. Because again, I like learning in case you quit, get too expensive. I don't like to be held captive, but I always encourage people just to get the best people to do what you need to do.
I do it for my business too.
Yeah. So it's like, just get the best people real quick and step up and pay their bill. Because believe me, it's not just the price in most cases. It's the cost. And it costs you more money to do it cheaply than just do it correctly.
Yep.
It's crazy. Yeah, dude, I want to talk to you more about Lightspeed because Lightspeed's a company that can hire you or engage you. And then the Real Brad Lea, me personally, that's another area because, again, I don't have any high-ticket items or any of that. Like, I'm just getting a little attention. And it's like, well, dude, I do have a mission in life, which is to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. Like you, dude, that's why I'm excited that you're here. You got a lot of knowledge. There's people out here that will pick up something right here from this podcast that will literally make them millions, change their life, change their trajectory, solve a challenge or problem they couldn't think through. And that's my mission. So why not figure out, what if it gets huge? Well, why not figure out how to frickin' monetize that and make a bigger impact?
Absolutely.
For example, I don't have masterminds. I don't have, what'd you call it? You called it a master class. I have a master class on sales and closing, but it's just a course. Like you'll work with people, correct?
Yeah. We built an agency to actually do the work for them.
Yeah.
Because we just knew that, and I break it down in the book and the masterclass how to do it, but I just know that the best way that we can serve people is to leverage our 15 years of experience and do it for them. And that's the way that I like to best serve people.
And that's the one I'd recommend. It just usually the most costly.
Yeah, but
But
it's like,
but it's not. See,
Well,
it's
it-
usually the
yeah.
cheapest when you look at the end result.
and it comes down to like what you're saying is what is that return on investment? That's the most important thing.
Now you partnered with MTV. It says you conceptualized and built an advertising technology, like some sort of engine algorithm.
So at the time, I didn't realize it, but looking back on it, I essentially built the first ever influencer marketing advertising platform. So I was working for a movie studio at the time, and I was just getting bored out of my mind because people think the movie industry is like some sexy creative thing, but it's another corporation.
And apparently filled with pedophiles and vampires.
There's a lot of crazy stuff
That's what I
going
hear,
on. And
dude. That's what when the woke means now is like first there's a conspiracy over here. Now Hollywood's filled with blood drinking baby killers, and it's like is this real shit? Like, you think anything in Hollywood's crashing, or is Hollywood fine?
Hollywood is fine. It's just going through a transitional period right now, especially with COVID. The whole landscape is shifting and shifted.
Is
over the
it
past-
more expensive to make movies or less expensive?
more expensive?
Yeah, because I mean, to me nowadays, like anybody with a damn iPhone and some talent can make a movie, right? I've seen
But,
movies made on this
Again,
shit.
this goes back to hook points, is how much competition is there? How many TV shows? How many films? Look at Netflix, for example. Netflix spends $17 billion a year on content. Even within the Netflix ecosystem, it's a struggle to keep up.
Yeah.
But Netflix is playing this game is they only need 5% of those shows or movies to work, and it's going to carry the whole business.
Oh yeah,
But now you have Netflix, you have Amazon, you have Disney Plus, you
Prime
have all the
Video.
studios, Prime Video, all of these things competing for your attention. Like my consumption behavior is unless I'm completely sold on something, I will give it 3 to 5 minutes. And even if somebody told me it's an amazing show, I'm done.
Really?
I'll move on to the next thing because there's so much choice.
I did that with Game of Thrones. I saw the first episode, didn't really get me. I kept hearing about it, and I'm like, one day I was bored. I'm like, all right, let me watch a couple. So as soon as I had 3 episodes, I was hooked. But the first one didn't do it.
No, it took me 3 times to get through the first episode.
Of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I didn't like it at first. But, dude, Justified, Dexter, all of those. I don't know who's making them. Showtime, whomever. That original content is valuable nowadays, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. That's why Netflix is investing $17 billion into it. That's why Disney Plus is creating their own.
Is it to get the
online
eyeballs?
platform. Yeah, and own them.
Because Prime Video, for example.
Yeah, but this is the amazing thing that people don't realize is people think that Amazon is in the content business to be in the content business. They are not. They are producing TV shows and films to sell Prime memberships because they know as soon as they get you on a Prime membership, it switches the subconscious to then train you to result to their platform every time you want to make a purchase. So where Netflix is playing checkers, Amazon is playing chess. Same thing with Apple, with their original IP. It's like they're indoctrinating people into their brand. Same with Disney and Disney Plus. It's like the real business for Disney is in the IP to get people to show up at the theme parks. It's in the IP to get people to sell merchandise. It's not really box office revenue. People look at acquiring Star Wars and think, oh, they're going to make billions of dollars off of movies. Do they? But that's peanuts to them. They do make money off the movies, but where they make money is building Star Wars land and getting people to go and show up to Disneyland or Disney World and spend hundreds.
Figures.
Yeah, and action figures. That's what made George Lucas.
Do you think they
wealthy.
plan to do that, or that just what
100%
happened?
They plan to do it. They're
because
very
right now, if we were to use Lightspeed as a analogy, Lightspeed only has the movies. Like there's no resort to go to. There's no action figures.
Yeah, and you could still make a business out. Like Netflix is a very big business. I hesitate to say profitable because I don't know if they're profitable right now, but it is a big business. Don't get me wrong. I mean, their market cap I think is 130 or 140 billion dollars. You can still win that way. I'm not diluting like
No,
what
of course
Netflix
you
has
can.
done.
But the question is, can you help companies develop
Yeah,
the
we do that
action
all the time.
figures and the freaking theme parks?
Well, that's what we look is what is the whole ecosystem that we're building. Is we start with a hook, we define what the hook is to grab the attention, and then we map out, okay, what is that customer journey that they're going to go on? Because that's just as important. Is like you can grab all the attention in the world, but if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the salesperson's dilemma. Like if you're a really badass, highly effective closer, and you can get people to buy easily, all you need is the people. And then if you're, great at marketing, well, now how do you convert them? That's getting the people's easy. How do you convert them? See? So sales and marketing should go simultaneously together.
100%. And you hit it on the head. Getting to people is the easy part now because you have all of these. I could go and launch an ad right now and reach 10 million people in the next 48 hours.
And lose all your money.
And lose all your money if you don't have the right hook, if you don't have the right strategy in place to capitalize off of it.
Yeah.
So it's like as we were talking with one of your friends that is about to hit $1 billion in one of their vitamin supplement companies. I know 5 people in the past 5 years that have built $1 billion brands. Prior to the social media and the internet, it would take decades to do that. You could literally do it in a few years if you really capitalize on it and you have the right strategy in place.
And the right resources to execute.
Yeah. We are living in the best time in history to ever create a business or scale a business.
I'd agree. You were a vice president for Paramount Pictures?
Yeah, I ran their digital strategy. So I was overseeing films and ranging from like $15 to $100 million budgets.
Do you know all the celebs? Do you get to hang out with all the celebs?
I know some. I'm not like...
Well, you did something with Taylor Swift, Rihanna, Michael Strahan. Like, what'd you do with them? Adriana Lima?
So a lot of those were based on technology. So I had built a technology platform that I licensed to MTV that was helping celebrities really cultivate audience through their official online presence and monetize it. So MTV opened up the doors and introduced me to like the Taylor Swifts, Rihannas, the Michael Strahans of the world, and really helped foster their online fan base and community and turn it into commerce.
I was reading in your book, like, first couple meetings, like Taylor wasn't even there.
Yeah.
You were just trying to close a deal with the brand, and then finally she rolled in. You were there.
Yeah.
And what was she known? Was she Taylor Swift at this point, or just coming up into being Taylor Swift?
She was on the inflection point. So I didn't know who she was when MTV was like, hey, do you want to go meet with Taylor Swift? But she was still there. Like, I remember the first meeting that I had with the head of her record label. It was at backstage at the Grammys, and she popped in because she was performing. So it wasn't like she was, just singing on the side of the street, but she wasn't the global superstar that she was today.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like, the reality of dealing with big celebrities or high-profile CEOs of companies, rarely are you going to go direct to those people. So for Taylor specifically, I had to go through 4 meetings before I got to the official meeting with her. Now, in the first meeting backstage at the Grammys, it was like a 5-second hello. It wasn't. I wouldn't consider that meeting somebody.
Yeah.
But it went from the head of the record label to having to meet with her father, then having to meet with her mother, then having to meet with her agent, and then meeting with her. And each meeting, I would just collect information about how I needed to express the value to each individual, and also collecting information about how Taylor perceives the world. So I was super prepared going into that meeting and presenting our value to her in the unique way that she could hear it and resonate with.
Interesting stuff. So the hook point, you keep going back to that, which is basically how to stand out in a second world, which is like a quick world, basically.
Yeah.
3-second world. If I were to like sell training, sales training, does the hook point need to be relevant, or do you just need to get their attention? Because a lot of times I've heard, like show a picture of a chick's ass and they'll stop, and then you start talking. Well, yeah, that might have got their attention, but then as soon as you started talking, they're like, oh, clickbait later, and it still doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, that's clickbait. So again, I didn't finish the 3 pillars of a hook point. So we've got the hook point, grabbing the attention. The second pillar is the story, maintaining the attention. And the third is authenticity. Are you doing it in a trustworthy, incredible way? Because if all 3 don't work together, it fails. Like if you don't grab the attention, you never get to the story. If you grab the attention and it's clickbait and your story is nowhere relevant to what the hook was, it falls flat.
Like a nice ass.
Yeah, that doesn't help unless you're selling bathing suits or something relevant to that. And then if you grab their attention, you have an amazing story, but people don't believe it, then it falls flat. So you need all 3 working together in order for it to be effective.
Yeah.
Now, there's certain tools that you can use. So we talk a lot about pattern interruption, because just think about the endless scrolling that you do on social media. The reality of the situation is people don't realize they're not competing against their direct competition anymore. They're competing against every piece of content that's posted. Because with 60 billion messages sent out on digital platforms each day, it's so noisy. Forbes released an article recently that the average person is exposed to between 4,000 and 10,000 ads a day.
Without even knowing it.
Without even knowing it.
Which means somebody's wasting their money.
And for yourself, if you're not even in the top 10, how do you have any chance of getting them to perform the action that you're looking for? So we talk a lot about pattern interruption. How do we interrupt the pattern and get them to stop? So just imagine you're scrolling Instagram and they've just watched a LeBron James dunking video. They just watched The Rock, Kevin Hart, Netflix, the Kardashians. Now your ad or your organic post comes up. What is going to get them to stop? Now, most people make the mistake of saying the same thing in the same way as everybody else. It's like when you talk about sales. I don't know what the common, you would know better than me, the common sales things that people say is like, or let's go to ad buying, is like, ROAS is your key to scale. It's like, okay, I've heard that a million times. I don't need that. Or
how I wouldn't agree with that statement. Only because ROAS is the result of scale, isn't it?
Well, ROAS allows scale.
Yeah.
You can't scale without a positive ROAS.
Yeah, but so that's what I mean. It's the result of scale. Like, in other words, if your ROAS doesn't exist, and by the way, it does exist no matter what, because it could be negative, it could be positive. But my point is ROAS isn't how you scale. ROAS is the result of scaling. Like your the return on ad spend allows you to keep spending more and scaling more, right?
It allows you to scale, but it's not necessarily the result of scale.
Yeah,
Because
it allows
as
you to scale.
Because with ROAS specifically, it becomes more difficult the more you pump into it.
So ROAS
there's
is like
there's a
gas.
Ceiling. Yeah.
And why is that ceiling?
Because of the auctions. The more money you pump into the auctions, the higher your cost typically goes.
What are the auctions? Is that where I buy words?
So different auctions. So there's pay-per-click advertising where you're buying keywords or search terms, and then there's like push marketing on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, where it's still an auction based, but you're doing it mainly on interest demos, behaviors, things of that nature that you can target off of.
Do I still bid for a word though? Like if I say, hey, anybody clicks training, I'll spend $900 and be the highest bidder and be seen everywhere.
On paid search, you will. Like on YouTube, it works that way as well. When it comes to Facebook and Instagram, no, but in a way you are. Like, again, you can say, hey, I want to target LeBron James fans. Now, those people aren't searching for LeBron James, but you can target fans of LeBron James. So it's kind of similar to a term, but it's not exactly them searching for that keyword that you're going after. But going back to the pattern interruption, let's just take an example of, like, let's say we're launching a meditation app. Now, meditation's been around for thousands of years. And if you type in meditation in Google, there'll probably be 3 billion results. So most people, if they're trying to launch a meditation app or a meditation practice, they'll say things like meditation is the key to stillness. Meditation is the key to contentment, or meditation is the key to success. Things that you've heard millions of times. So if that pops up in my feed, I already know what this video is about. I know what this product is about, so I can keep scrolling. So how do we interrupt that pattern and get them to stop? One of the tools that we will use as a pattern interrupt is subverting expectations, is essentially flipping it on its head. So what that can look like is we have a meme card or a headline on the top of the video that says meditation is a scam. And we would start the ad by saying, hey, have you ever experienced meditation and just feels like a scam because people have given you the wrong advice and it just hasn't worked? Like, for example, the biggest myth is when you sit down and meditate, it's about clearing your head. Well, that's impossible. Now, in my personal journey, I started out at the same place as you. I tried meditation for years and it didn't work. I thought it was a scam. Now I'm going to share practices with you that have worked for me and helped me turn into that skeptic into a daily meditation person. Here, check out this link. So what I've done is I've interrupted that pattern, subverted expectations, and saying something completely different about a subject that has been talked about millions, if not billions of times to get their attention. But then the story matches what that subverting expectation is. So it's authentic. It's not clickbait. I'm expressing what the person on the other side of the screen is going after. And then it's my job to tell that story in that way that's credible enough that people will take the next step on the journey.
So the hook point is it's a scam. The second step, which you said the story,
Yeah.
is the, hey, I used to think it was a scam too.
Yeah, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And then what's the third one?
Am I telling it in a credible way? Do people believe the way that I'm saying it? And if all three match up, then they're willing to take that next step.
And now you got some fire.
Yeah. Download the app, register for the email, buy the product, sign up for a course.
And the conversion skyrockets.
Yeah.
So can you apply that shit to like a landscaper or a dentist or a chiropractor?
You can apply it to anything. We just did a strategy session for a pharmacist. We just did one for a financial services company that does accounting it can be used for anything.
Can you find a hook point, a story, and because if the hook point's good and the story's good, then it is done credibly. The third pillar is there almost automatically if the first two are.
Yes, unless somebody's saying something that they don't believe and they're just trying to sell you.
Right, which
you can read through that all the time.
Yeah, but then the story isn't credible.
It's not credible. It falls apart.
Yeah. So then, yeah, I get you. So, but again, if I have a great hook point and I have a great story, and I do believe it, and I am passionate about it, that third one, which is it believable, depends on the face of the company or the person giving the message. If you hired someone that looks shifty, it might affect you, right? But essentially, that third pillar will automatically happen if the first two happen.
Typically, I'm not going to say automatically all the time because some people can screw it up.
Sure.
That they're not good on camera. They don't know how to tell the story. They're overthinking it.
Yeah. Or they elaborate, which again would follow the second one apart. So these two have to be good, and assuming the rest. Yeah, I get you. So if I execute on all those, and now I go spend $1,000 in ads, but I don't understand retargeting. I don't understand all of the pixels and reverse fly traps and all this other stuff. Might it still lose?
Yeah, I mean, it always can lose. And that's why we implement testing in everything that we do. So first off, the hook points that we develop for our clients, between me and my team, I probably tested close to 250,000 hook points over the past 3 years. So we're constantly testing, we're constantly iterating. We have so much data and so much experience to know where to start and cut down that learning curve. And then typically, if something is falling flat, it's not really the hook, it's the way the hook was delivered. So for going back to the first 3 to 5 seconds, when we talk about social media, whether it's an ad or it's an organic piece of content, there's so many variables in that first 3 to 5 seconds. Is like, what does the meme card say? What is the color of the meme card? Do we have the meme card and the captions at the same time? Do we leave the captions off? Do we open with somebody speaking, or do we open with some type of B-roll footage? There's variables on the ways that we express that hook point to either get it to work or to even scale and optimize performance. So it's like with the first book, 1 Million Followers, I've probably tested thousands of variations of ads against that hook. I knew the hook would work. It was just the different expressions of how to express that hook to get people to buy into it and get people to check it out.
It almost is like get the books, learn how to do it, but it's almost like, dude, even if you get the books and learned how to do it, sounds like a lot of work, period.
It is, but we love it.
And it's worth it.
100% it's worth it.
What's the difference if a landscaper right now was making $250,000 a year and he started to buy these and do it himself or got you to do it? If he did this, what type of growth and impact would that have if done properly?
depends on the market. I don't know enough about landscaping, but it could be going from 250 to 5 or 250 to a million. Like there's, as I mentioned, I just did this exact same process of developing hook points for a financial service company that's at 10 million, and they want to just add another 2 million. But the hooks that we developed for them, I was like, you guys should easily, in the next 2 years, not increase by 2 million. You should double your entire business. Because the hook points we develop are not just for ads, they're not just for social media. Oftentimes they're business development hook points. Because that's a big part of my career is I had to go in to the CEO of Viacom or Vice, or go in with Taylor Swift, or go in with an agent, go pitch Disney and figure out how to sell and close multi-million-dollar deals. So when I talk about hook points, it's not just online, it's offline as well. And a lot of clients that I work with is like, how can we differentiate ourselves to get us into that huge meeting? That one meeting will represent 10 million a year in revenue. And oftentimes people look at that and don't think about the larger ecosystem and the different ways that you can approach business growth. It's not just social media. Social media is a huge one. But I found like strategic partnerships and licensing deals and things of that nature can drive massive growth. And again, getting into MTV or Viacom requires a hook because these are guarded people. They don't take meetings with just anybody. You have to find a unique way to show that you're not going to waste their time and that you're going to deliver value to them. Otherwise, they've got better things to do with their day.
Yeah, dude, like if I were sitting here with a checkbook, I'd be like, well, dude, how much is this? Because like this is exactly what businesses, I would say established businesses, need to get to the next level. Because people always say, how do I get to the next level? I'm doing, $1 million and change, but man, how do I get to 10? This type of shit.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. Like, I'll give you an example. So there was a company that I was advising from the very earliest stages. When I started working with them, there were 4 guys around a table. They had a paid media optimization business, and they were this was very early on. In the first 6 months of the business, they were optimizing about $300,000 a year for clients. And then I worked with them on strategy, bringing in like key players. I brought in their lead investor, their lead salesperson, the lead counsel. But me and the lead salesperson, we went to high school together, and we just focused really on hooks. How do we go after the big players? And we knew the big players were the Disneys, the Xboxes, the Foxes of the world, because they spent hundreds of millions of dollars a year on paid spend. So we spent weeks working on hooks that we could send as cold outreach through LinkedIn. And that business, in less than, I think it was 4 years, went from managing $300,000 a year in paid spend to $100 million. And it wasn't because we went off and sold thousands of clients. We went after and we closed Disney, Xbox, Fox. We went out and closed media companies. And it all started with just how we could differentiate ourselves in those first 3 to 5 seconds to just get us in the door. Because we knew once we were in the door, our product or service was amazing. It blew all of the competitors out the door. But if we couldn't figure out how to get the meeting, then it falls flat. And that's where a lot of companies I run into, they have amazing products. They have amazing services. They can transform the lives of their customers. Or even with your t-shirt line, it's an amazing quality. It stands for something. But you've got to figure out how to just get in the door. How do you win the attention so that people can actually see your genius, see your product or service? And that's where I see most people are struggling to either get off the ground or go from $1 million to 10 million, or from 10 million to 100 million, or even from 100 million to $1 billion.
Yeah, they got to get past the noise, you keep saying.
Yep. Because it's a noisy world.
Yeah, it's noisy. I would agree. I mean, when I'm scrolling through, I always take notice of what caught my eye. I'm not worried about the bait and switcher, meaning, I saw kick-ass looking scene for, what's that? And then, I realize it's an ad. As long as it was clever. As long as it was clever. Like, in other words, I appreciate clever advertising. I'll go by, that's pretty clever. So I wouldn't call that bait and switch, but it's clever. What do you think the basic hook elements are? Like surprise, angst, the opposite? Like if I just came out with a thing that said proof that Brendan Kane is a scam. Well, that wouldn't work unless people knew who Brendan Kane was, right? Because nobody's thinking the opposite. But if I targeted your followers and they were, what? Click. And then I say, yeah, Brendan Kane's not a scam. You ever seen those? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, YouTube is like, there's tons of people that are growing YouTube channels by doing this type of stuff.
Yeah, so is that how you do it? Basically, you just kind of do the opposite of what people are thinking?
That's one tool. Like, that's subverting expectations. And maybe we use that 10% of the time, but there's so many different elements of like hook points. So it can come in the form of the image that you create. It can come in the form of the text. It can come in the form of like insight and matching insight with a hook. So for example, there is a YouTube account, Dr. Mike. He's quickly become probably one of the most well-known doctors in the world. And what he did is he took his insight and matched it with shows that people watch. So it's like Real Doctor reacts to Grey Anatomy. Real Doctor reacts to The Good Doctor. He's taking his specialty and insight and comparing it with something that people know and attaching and anchoring to a pre-existing brand out there. So that's one.
So what would I do? Like Brad Lea?
Well, let me go through the others and then we can decide
I know,
which
but
ones.
see, that's what I mean. I want to end the podcast and figure out a deal. Let's get working.
Well, we can do that. Then there's performance. Like Prince EA, who wrote the foreword of my book, has done like 2 billion views in the past 2 years. It's because he is a performer. The way that he delivers, it's his cadence, it's his pace, it's his tone. That he can take like a topic of environmentalism, which is one of the most boring topics and falls flat because of the delivery. And he believes so much in it. I believe so much in it. And he is successful because of his performance. And he has a video about the environment that's 121 million views organically because of his performance, because of his cadence, because of his tone. Sometimes the service itself.
Is that required?
No. I'm not a performance-driven person. I don't have what Prince EA has.
Right, but there's certain faces, if you will. Like Prince EA might be the his personality made that work or contributed, because if it's a must, it's like, oh shit, that eliminates a bunch of people.
It's not a must, but like we layer in communication frameworks, and you have to understand that people perceive the world in different ways. So you need to connect with people based on how they perceive the world. So some people perceive the world through thoughts and logic. They just care about data and facts. Some people perceive the world through feelings and emotions. They don't care about data and facts. They care about how it makes them feel. Yep. There's people that value the world or see the world through values and opinions. It's like, do they believe? Do they trust what they're saying? There's some people that view the world through actions. They're just like, go, go, go. They want the best. They want the bottom line, and they just want to move quickly. There's people that just react to the world, like the Robin Williams, where they're not thinking, they're not feeling, they're just reacting to everything going around them. And where most people go wrong when they're creating hooks or creating content is they're designing it from how they perceive the world. So if I perceive the world through thoughts and logic, and all I talk about is data and facts and logic, I'm going to turn off the people that perceive the world through feelings and emotion, which is a huge percentage. It's 35% of the North American population. And same thing through values and opinions. If I don't express why they should believe in this and express my opinions about this, then I'm going to turn them off. So when we work with people, they don't necessarily have to have the performance skill set of a Prince EA, but we work with them to help them understand how do they perceive the world, and how can we make sure that their message is well-rounded enough so that people can hear what they have to say. Because again, it's less about the content and it's more about the context that you wrap it in.
Pay attention, folks. This is the secret sauce. You'd have to pay how much to get you to coach them one-on-one?
It's expensive. Let's just put it at that.
Yeah, so you guys are getting the
we
gold.
We deliver for our clients.
Well, dude, anytime it's expensive, that's how you know, usually.
Yeah.
Because that's why it's expensive. I always tell people, like sometimes it's not the price that you look at, it's the cost. Because your price might be more expensive than the competitor, but the cost is way cheaper than the competitor.
Yeah.
Did these 1 million followers equate to any loot? Did you ever monetize them, move it into some sort of a thing?
Yeah. I mean, so the concept behind the book was, I started off in entertainment. Walking into meetings, I had to think big. Like, I can't go into a meeting in the film industry with an idea that's going to reach 10,000 or 100,000 people. You get fired for that. So the idea was, how do I go as big as possible and loud as possible with a strong hook to get people to pay attention to what I really need to teach them? And then once I have that attention, how can I leverage that attention into larger opportunities? So generating the hook, 1 million followers in 30 days. So I developed that to get a literary agent, to get a publishing deal, to speak on stage in front of thousands of people, to get on big podcasts, to get on television. And then through that, the brand kept building and building. And then I have, Fortune 500 and 100 companies that reach out to me, celebrities that reach out to me. We put people through workshops or boot camps. We built an agency around hook points. So that single hook has represented millions of dollars in revenue. It's not just like, oh, I just did this thing and it didn't do it. Because again, I look at the entire customer journey and the entire customer path and how that hook can really take advantage of a larger business and strategic opportunity. Because most people, and I'm sure you've heard the 1,000 true fans model of, hey, all you got to do is find your 1,000 true fans and you can make a living off of it, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But me going to entertainment, coming from entertainment, working with a Taylor Swift or an MTV, I can't think in that way. So what I did is I did the reverse of the 1,000 true fans. I went out and acquired the biggest audience I possibly could in the shortest period of time, not because I was trying to turn those followers into customers, but so that I have this hook that I can leverage to get on television, to get on podcasts, to get on stages where that is where my real 1,000 true fans are going to come from and where my high ticket or high revenue generating opportunities are going to come from. Not to say that I haven't converted any of the million followers into buying books or other stuff, but that wasn't my core focus. My core focus was using it as a hook strategically for larger opportunities.
The other one was kind of like a side result.
Which one?
That you sold books. Like, in other words, that's great, but that wasn't your purpose. It was like, an outcome, not necessarily the intention.
I used the book as a marketing tool to build the brand and build the awareness. Yeah. So I built an entire engine about how can I put as many books into the marketplace as possible. As we were talking about before the podcast, where most people with books are focused on is that launch. And they'll have huge spike in sales over the first month or two, and then it'll fall off a cliff. I don't even focus on a launch. Not to say that I wouldn't like to learn it, but I've focused on how can I build a sustainable engine where I can sell a consistent amount of books over time. Like with the first book, I sell more copies of that book today than I did when it first launched. And that's what's more interesting to me, because I just see what happens with brand recognition when you put a book in somebody's hand, especially a physical book, in today's digital and noisy world.
Who else is in this book? It says with world's greatest minds. So you got a bunch of...
Yeah, we got some amazing people. Prince Ye, who's one of the top influencers in the world. We had my friend John Skogmo, who created a company called Jukin Media, which is now essentially the Getty for viral videos. They do about 3.5 billion views a month. My creative director, who's done tens of billions of views online. We have Ray Chan, who founded a company called 9gag, which is one of the top followed social accounts on Instagram. I think they have 50 million followers.
Damn.
We've got a bunch of the chief audience officer for the World Surf Leagues in there. We've got a great, well-rounded group in the book.
And then the master class, is that on demand? Is that a video, or you host that?
I host it, but you can go on anytime. If you go to hookpoint.com/masterclass, it dives into the concepts of hooks in more detail.
Does it teach more step by step how to develop your own?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you teach people and theirs just sucks because they're not very talented.
It just takes experience.
Yeah, like I'm just sitting here as I'm listening to you, which when you're hosting, I got to listen and ask questions, but I'm also trying to think at the same time. So I'm like, because what's my hook point? Well, I got me, and then I got my company, and then it's like, now I'm connected to probably 700 or 800 other subject matter experts because they're all using my system, and if they win, we win. So I'm thinking, well, dude, maybe he could go around at least the highest, most successful one, transform their business, and then guess what that would cause the other 600 to do? Well, I need to do what, because it boils down to it's a matter of money. I always tell people, what's the recipe? Money. Because guess what? Money can hire you. I don't need the recipe to this if I got the recipe to money. Because if I got money, I can say, Brendan, dial us in at Lightspeed. Dial me in personally. What's your fee? Here you go. Now, next thing you know, Brad Lea became the biggest such and such in the world. Well, little do they know that investment is what really caused it. Even though you could attribute it to, no, Brad got $1 billion deal out of Switzerland. Well, because the hook point was developed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are lacking the hook point.
Yeah, and people come to me all the time. It's kind of fascinating. They're like, well, you worked with all these big celebrities. It's not going to work for me. Well, I built 1 million followers in 30 days, sold books all over the world, and acquired these big clients, not because I'm a genius, it's because I understand how to gain attention and hook points. So the world that we live in, it doesn't matter what stage you're at or where you're at. If you can position yourself in a unique way and you have something tangible and real, this isn't like we're not selling smoke here. You got to have something of substance. It's going to work.
Yeah.
And like we did something similar with your business for a company called Mind Valley, where we looked at kind of all of the different leading experts that they had on their platform and even the CEO and helped craft those hook points to really help them stand out and scale. But to your question is like one of the tools and exercises that we do with clients, and one of my thought processes, what is keeping people up at night? Like what is like causing them crazy stress? What is causing them crazy anxiety? Because that's one of the first places to look for hooks. And one of my friends I interviewed in Hook Point has sold over $1 billion worth of product online. He's one of the top copywriters in the world. And he broke down is the minute that you can articulate somebody's problem better than they can articulate it to themselves, you win them. You win them right away. And that's where I start is like, what is the biggest pain point that is on somebody's mind at all times that we can solve for them and that we can express better than they could express themselves? You'll win.
What about when you're selling something that the customer doesn't even realize they need?
Then you can start with something that they think they need and then give them what they want. For example, 1 million followers. So I hook people in with 1 million followers in 30 days because that's what they feel like they need, but it's not. It's what they want. They want followers, but what they need is a fundamental understanding of how to test content, how to learn from your audience, how to construct content. Because without that, you will not be successful. Some people come to me with an e-commerce business, for example, or they're like, I need to generate revenue right now. And I say, okay, we're not going to focus on followers. We're going to focus on how do we generate immediate revenue, get that engine running, and then we can reinvest into followers. So again, it's like, I completely understand where you're coming from. We work with clients like that all the time is, okay, the customer may not know they need this, but what do they think they need? And how can we use that as an anchor or a lead-in to give them what they really need to be successful?
Interesting. And you've been doing this for 15 years, you say?
Yeah.
So for 15, you don't look very old. How old are you? 40?
Yeah.
So at 25, what were you doing before that?
I was going to creating internet companies in school. So, I mean, if you want to go back to that, maybe 20 years, but I don't really consider that because you're still getting your feet under you and like piecing things together. But I think my first real experience started like 15 years ago.
Yeah, but the reason I ask is you seem like an intense dude.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the intensity comes from being real. And when I say real, there's a lot of people out there that are, they're real, but they're not necessarily real. Meaning, oh, that dude knows his shit. Oh, that guy knows his shit. Like there's those people out there that are like, dude, those guys are real. Yeah, I think you're one of them just sensing you. Why? You have an intensity.
I get intense because I'm passionate about it.
And you're sure. You're certain.
Yeah, because I definitively know that if I don't have the answer right now, I can go out and find it tomorrow.
Yeah. Because
we know how to test. We know how to find and collect data and information and process all of this.
And how long does it take normally? If I hired you for Lightspeed right now, when would the hook point be developed?
Typically,
barring your schedule.
Typically, it's done in the first 90 minutes.
Of what? Paying you?
The strategy session.
And then bam, there's a hook point.
Typically in the first 90 minutes.
Then how do you help them develop the story?
Well, we start with the hook, and then we work with the founder or with the business to develop the story. Now, we don't typically develop the story for them. We listen to them, and we find the story within what they tell us.
But you give them the story.
Yeah, we work with them on that.
Yeah, because again, I mean, it's harder than it sounds, I think. Even though I'm hearing you, and so are everyone listening. They're like, okay, I need to find my hook, and then I need to develop my story. I know what my story is. Yeah, but it's not that easy. It's almost like you have to almost interview and collaborate to get it out of the individual.
It's funny because I have a good friend that's probably one of the top creative directors in the world. He's worked for Nike and Adidas and all these companies, and he told me something, and I don't know if he came up with that or somebody else, but it's so true, and I relay it to everybody. The process is simple. I can teach you the process, but it's not necessarily easy. It's like he breaks down running an Ironman or those Ironman competitions. It's simple. You bike X number of miles, you run X number of miles, you swim X number of miles. But does that mean it's easy? No, it's not. It's the same thing with hook. It's like the process is simple, but it's not necessarily easy to do it and come up with it.
But I know you need to do it, folks. I know you need to do it. If you're listening to me, man, if I influence you at all, the answer would be, dude, can you afford this guy? Or try it on your own a couple times. See if you can do it. Because I think there's probably people like moi that fancy themselves creative, fancy themselves intelligent, and with a little bit of guidance could actually probably nail a few of these. Not 15 years worth, but again, I'm listening, I'm thinking, okay, what's my hook point? Because to me, like for example, Lightspeed, they do two things: trains people and makes money. So like I can show you how to take all of this, virtualize it, and make more than you're making yourself. How do I know? Because I've been doing it 20 years. That's what I do to make millions of dollars. Then on the other side, we help people train people better, right? You're not getting the result from training because you're not training. Most companies don't know that. They're exposing. They're not training. Okay, training requires 4 things. If you're not delivering those 4 things, you're not training, you're exposing. And that's what most companies, believe it or not, fail to understand. They think they have training programs when they don't. So those 2 things is what I'm doing. A hook, for example, for the train your people. I'm thinking, boom, they're scrolling. They see 2 people getting ready to fist fight in an office, right? Because that gets people to stop. It does. Fights. I guarantee it does. So I'm scrolling. Ooh, it looks like one of those fight videos. I'm going to stop, especially if there's a clever headline and some good copy. Now I'm going to stop. Are your employees acting like this? Is that because bing, 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 and you engage them? Is that the story? The hook was the fight. The story is now your message. Like, well, dude, are your employees acting like a bunch of freaking Neanderthals? Are you losing customers because your turnover is so high? Have you ever wondered why your turnover is so high? Your training. Well, what's wrong with our training? Aha, that's why your turnover is so high. People quit because they're not making money. People quit because they're not successful. There's reasons people quit. Why is everyone quitting your business? You know, I don't know if you know this or not. Bing, bing, bing. And so that's the story, or that's the message. So the hook was the fight. That's the story. And then it's believable with passion and delivering it correctly because, dude, I'll argue with anybody over those topics. Why? Because I know them as well as you know what you're talking about. So if I did that, is that a hook and a story, and boom, where does it go from there?
It's a hook. I don't know if the hook would work. Your story is strong, and your story started when you first went about, this is our business. We help people make money. We help them monetize their books and things of that. That is your story, but it's not your hook because there's so many other people in the market that are talking about that. But like a hook that I just came to mind as you're talking about my books is you literally, I think we did research. There's probably, and I may be completely off on this number, but I believe the number of self-published books per year is like 5 or 6 million a year. So literally I can see an ad in my head where you hold up a book and he says, you have this, but I can turn it into this. And then you turn it into like $1 million check or something, or have some visual effect. Because so few people talk about what books. People think they make money off of books, off of selling books. You don't make a dime unless you get a huge advance. But there's a huge audience of 6 million people a year that are trying to figure out what to do with this and how to turn it into money. So that's like that visual exercise of like a visual effects of, I can teach you how to turn this into this. And that's your first 3 seconds in less than 30 days or 15 days or 10 days, like something like that. A fight can work. My only concern is all of the social platforms are against violence. So the minute they think there's a fight, even if there's not a real fight, you could get banned your ads can get shut down or get banned in some way.
What do you mean they're filled with violence?
Ads aren't.
Oh, ads.
Yeah. Organic.
Paid ads.
Paid ads.
Because, dude, you know what I was saying? I was talking to my team earlier, and I'm like, you know what I think the future of ads are? Where they're not ads.
Well, that's a good ad.
Yeah, but to me, it's like, because sometimes I'm talking to someone, like right now, this footage right here, when I explained who we are, what we do, they could take that and go make an ad where someone watches me talking to you, which is content, but they're being sold based on my passion and the words that I use. That's actually we're having a conversation. This isn't an ad, but boom, right now it could be doing tick, 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 and this was used for an ad. And I think that's the future of ads, where you're not being sold, you're witnessing why you need the product.
Yeah, and people make this mistake all the time when they think about ads. They think that my only job is to create something that says buy this.
Yeah.
That doesn't really work. Like especially in today's,
and it's in the noise.
Yeah, it gets lost in the noise. But like one tactic that we use and some of our friends use for the biggest brands in the world is they'll create like a hero video. Like one of my friends that's featured in the 1 Million Followers book is the chief strategy officer of a company called Shareability that builds viral videos for the top brands in the world. And they did a campaign for Cricket Wireless with John Cena. So the first 2 videos were about John Cena. One was there was a big backdrop and fans would talk about how much they love John Cena, and then he would burst out through and surprise the fans. And then the second one is fans surprise John Cena with their emotional letters to him about how he impacted their lives. Didn't sell anything about Cricket Wireless. You could see the logo, but it was more about, I'm going to entertain, I'm going to engage you. And then off the back end, they would remarket to all the people that watched the video with John Cena saying, hey, thanks so much for checking out my video. Really appreciate it. Why don't you go check out Cricket Wireless? So what happened? They earned the right to advertise to those people by giving them something of value, entertaining them, engaging them. So to your point is if we took this conversation and we turned it into a paid ad, we're not selling anything, but we're getting 1 million, 10 million, 15 million people to watch it. And then we can go back and retarget and say, well, why don't you go check out Brad's new clothing line? Or why don't you go check out Lightspeed Ventures and learn more about that? And it's one of the things that are overlooked about marketing is everybody's just focused so intently on the sale versus first earning the right to make the pitch or make the sell first, and then go into the more direct response side of things.
Dude, maybe we can do a 2-for-1 deal. You help me with Lightspeed and my personal brand.
Yeah.
Because it's 2 different things. And I don't even know if I want the Brad Lea one.
Yeah, you do.
Well, people say that, but it's, again, I don't want to be on social media all day saying, buy my shit, buy my
don't have
shit.
to.
Like, I don't want to do that.
You don't have to.
I want to be known, and that's fun and all that, but I want to be known more like Elon Musk or frickin',
You can do that.
Steve Jobs or somebody that's like, oh, we know who he is because of what he did.
That's what I did with Katie Couric. We weren't selling anything. We were just getting more exposure for her content because it was getting lost in the algorithms.
Yeah, well, that's just optimization techniques, yeah? You have guys that know that?
That's the same with you.
I know, but do you have services for that too?
Yeah, we test stuff all the time. I mean, with Katie Couric, I did 220 interviews with her, ranging from like DJ Khaled to Chance the Rapper to Joe Biden to Dolly Parton to Jay Leno, all across the board. And I tested 75,000 variations of hooks across those 220 interviews. And we reached 1 billion global views and saved the company tens of millions of dollars in traffic acquisition costs.
How much money could somebody make on YouTube if they just came up with a clever little way to, get 3 million subscribers?
Just off of ads?
Yeah, just YouTube. Ad roll.
ad depends on the niche.
'Cause
Each niche has different CPMs. So like finance, for example, will have a much higher CPM than like a sports channel. So if you're talking about like investment portfolio things and credit cards and things like that, it's going to have a much higher CPM than you talking about LeBron James, just because of the nature of the audience. So it really depends on what audience and then the type of content that you're putting out there. But I'll give you an example. So I started working with an influencer named Michelle Phan, and she's one of the most brilliant influencers ever, and I'll show you why. Is where most people, she was a huge YouTube influencer. She still is, but she took a break. Beauty influencer. And like most influencers, your first thing is, okay, how much can I make off of ad revenue off of my channel? She thought bigger. She's like, that's too small.
But that's the chump change, right?
That's the chump change.
Yeah.
So what she did is she created a company called Ipsy, which was a competitor to Birchbox. And she leveraged her audience and also her standing within the influencer community to get other influencers on board at a much lower cost and built it into a multi-billion-dollar company.
Which is again, she leveraged her brand and her reach.
She leveraged her attention.
Yeah, she leveraged her attention where the ad rolls chump change.
Yeah.
Because
it's not saying that it can't be meaningful.
No, I know, but like, oh yeah, it can be meaningful for a lot of people. Like I know several YouTube influencers that make serious money just from ads.
Yeah.
But they're not doing what you're talking about, doing what she did. They're, in my mind, I'm thinking there's got to be a business where I'll go show that person who's just popular how to make way more than they're making. Would that person come to you as well? Can you help that person?
We work with people like that.
Because I'm like a mini one of those. I'm not there yet, but I've got 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I've got 305,000 on Instagram, and they're real. I'm not doing promotions or any of that shit. And I know that there's a market there, but I don't have the hierarchy or the ascension model or the product mix, nor do I want just that. So I got to work with someone that like knows what they're doing, because I'm going to be one of those weird ones. Why? Because dude, I don't want to be, hey, buy my shit. Even though I'm not opposed to saying buy this shit, which is what she did. She created a synergistic connection. And that's what I want to do. Like, for example, maybe I get ripped and I'm all buff and, well, I've made my own thing because, dude, they love me so much, they'll buy any damn supplement I developed.
Yeah, Joe Rogan did it.
Yeah, or promoted. But see, I don't have the supplement. I don't have all this. All I have is just a budding baby, what do you call that? Base, foundation.
But again, if you want to play on the level of like the Elon Musks or the Mark Cubans, it's a different strategy. It's completely doable. It just, we put that as part of that brainstorming process and crafting the hook and looking at the larger picture.
And we can do it all in 90 minutes.
The hook, yes.
All right, dude, we better get off this thing so we can get to work.
Let's do it.
Folks, hey, listen, you better follow this dude if you're not already. Brendan Kane, BrendanKane on Instagram and most other social media. You can Google him. Google Hook Point, how to stand out in a 3-second world, because you can download it on Audible. 1 million followers. Brendan Kane, same thing. Look it up. Get his books. Go to this mentoring. Where's your masterclass? BrendanKane.com/masterclass?
It's at hookpoint.com/masterclass, and they can learn more about our agency at hookpoint.com and check out the book at hookpoint.com as well.
And hookpoint.com/masterclass. Is that a recorded course?
Yeah, it's not. It's free. It's an hour and a half of content diving into
video.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. See, again, I can help you too. So anyway, we'll figure out how we can help each other. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in, folks. Tag this guy, send this thing out, blow it up, make some noise, because somebody needs to hear this shit. Until next time, keep it real.